What would you do if everyone you ever loved was gone? Not moved away, not estranged, gone. If you woke up one morning and the entire world you had built your life inside of, every familiar face, every voice you recognized, every person who knew your name, had simply ceased to exist. This is not a fictional story. This is the kind of thing that has happened to real people throughout history. And this is the story of two of them. The last two people left in a town that the world forgot. Millfield was the kind of town where everybody knew everybody, where people left their doors unlocked and children played in the street until dark, where the bakery on the corner had been run by the same family for 3 generations, and the smell of fresh bread at 6 in the morning was the alarm clock nobody needed. It was ordinary, beautifully, completely, the kind of ordinary that people only realize was extraordinary once it is gone forever. Nobody knew where it came from. It arrived quietly, the way the worst things always do. First 1 person, then 3, then 10. By the time the authorities understood what they were dealing with, the roads in and out of Millfield had been sealed. The town was quarantined, cut off from the rest of the world. And then the dying began. Slowly at first. Then, all at once, families. The baker, the school teacher, the old man who sat on the same bench every morning for 40 years. One by one, the lights went out in Millfield until the town was nothing but silence and empty houses, and the echo of a life that used to be. Eli was 43, a carpenter who had lived in Millfield his entire life. He had lost his wife in the 3rd week, his 2 sons in the 4th. He had buried them himself in the garden because there was nobody left to call. Clara was 38. A nurse who had stayed behind when the quarantine sealed the roads. She had been trying to help when her own family succumbed, one by one, around her. They had known each other the way neighbors know each other in small towns, well enough to wave, not well enough to know each other's middle names. And then, suddenly, they were all that was left. 2 people, 1 empty town. And a silence so complete it had weight. At first they barely spoke. What do you say to the only other person left in a world that has ended? They moved through the towns separately. Eli fixing things that didn't need fixing, because the work kept his hands busy and his mind quiet. Clara tending a small garden she had started outside the old community hall because she needed to watch something grow. But slowly, quietly, they began to orbit each other. A meal left on a doorstep. A fire built without being asked. Small, wordless acts of survival that said everything neither of them could find the language for. It was 3 months into the silence when Clara broke. Eli found her sitting in the middle of the empty town square at 2 in the morning, just screaming into the dark. Not crying, screaming. The kind of sound a person makes when they have been holding something so enormous for so long that their body simply refuses to contain it anymore. Eli sat down next to her on the cold ground. He didn't try to stop her. He just sat there in the dark beside her and let her scream until there was nothing left. And when the silence came back, she leaned her head against his shoulder, and he let her, and they sat there until the sun came up. Neither of them said a word, but something between them shifted that night into something neither of them had a name for yet. After that night, something changed. They started having meals together. 6 months after the quarantine began, a helicopter appeared over Millfield. The first sign of the outside world either of them had seen since the roads closed. It circled twice. Eli and Clara ran into the street waving their arms. The helicopter landed in the town square. Men in protective gear climbed out. One of them walked toward them slowly and said, "We didn't think anyone was still alive in here." Eli looked at Clara, Clara looked at Eli, and Eli said, "We almost weren't." They left Millfield together that morning. They never went back. The town was eventually cleared and rebuilt by people who had never known it when it was alive. But Eli and Clara carried it with them. Every name, every face, every ordinary beautiful moment that the world outside never got to know existed. They became each other's memory of a place nobody else remembered. And years later, when someone asked Eli how he survived, he didn't talk about food or shelter or practical things. He said, "I survived because one morning I looked across an empty street and there was still one other person standing in it, and we made a decision, without saying it out loud, without making it dramatic. We just decided that as long as we were both still here, the people we lost were still here too. You can't let go of an entire town, but you can carry it together." That's what we did. We carried it together.